Hi, and welcome to listen to the language and communication study info virtually this time, as you can see. First of all, congratulations on landing a study place here at TAMK. It's a very, very nice place to study, and hopefully you're going to have fantastic time here while you're studying. The purpose of this info is to clarify what language and communication studies at TAMK are like, what different options you can have, and a few general things here and there. And then afterwards, you will be given more detailed information about the language studies in your field of study by the language teachers in that field. My name is Henry Annala. I'm one of the teachers, language teachers at TAMK. I teach mainly English, but I'm also working a bit with international affairs and digital pedagogy. So that's what I do. But let's get started. So now, as you are at the University of Applied Sciences, also the language and communication studies are really closely connected to your professional field. So what that means in practice is that, of course, the terminology will be very field specific in a way. You're going to deal with different cases that you're going to come up against with when you graduate from here, your line of work. We're going to work on authentic professional documents a lot and practice the communication situations with clients and colleagues and your field. So probably it will be a lot different from your earlier language studies, depending on, of course, what your earlier language studies are. But the chances are that it's going to be very different. The idea here is not to sort of like repeat the stuff that you have already learned, but just build on that and make it even more refined and go a bit further. So what can you do while you're here? You can continue studying a language or start learning a new one. So everybody has already English, Finnish, and Swedish courses in their mandatory studies at TAMK. But in addition to that, you can also choose one of the languages mentioned here, so Russian, German, or French. But the thing is that the language of instruction for these courses is mostly Finnish. So if you don't have any Finnish skills, it's going to be a bit difficult to take these courses. Sometimes we've had basics of German course where the language of instruction has been English. So let's see if that happens, but I can't promise you yet. Then we have this concept called each one teach one, which is essentially peer learning or tandem learning. So how does that work is that usually we have a lot of students coming here from different countries. Well, now because of the pandemic, it might be a bit less, but still we do have people from various cultural backgrounds. And let's say that we have a student coming from China who would like to learn Finnish. And then we have a Finnish student who would like to learn Chinese. Using this course, we can pair these students up and there's a framework that they can follow then and teach each other their own languages and cultures and set their own learning goals and start working towards them. So that's basically how it works. If you're interested, there's a link to sign up. The course is going to start in September. Then we have these TUNI cross-institutional studies, which means that now that you have a study place here, you're also entitled to take courses from the university. So University of Tampere. Sorry, Tampere University. University of Tampere is the old name. And they also have quite a good selection of language studies, so it's worth checking out their offer as well. Then we have this thing called Campus Online, which is a fairly new platform set up by all Finnish universities of applied sciences, and they also have a good offer on language studies. They are online courses, so you can go there and see if they have something interesting there and then sign up. And of course, different elective free choice courses here at TAMK. There's a link at the bottom of the slide that you can follow. We also have, besides Russian, German, and French courses, we also have a number of courses that sort of like go deeper in English, Finnish, and Swedish. For example, we have an English online course that focuses on practicing speaking and listening skills further. And the other half of the students comes from a partner university, so it's going to be a very intercultural course. All right. And then a few words about the skill level of the studies here at TAMK. So we continue from where secondary school studies ended. And what that means in practice is that we assume that the level for English is that you have at least from 7 to 10 years of studies under your belt. And for Swedish, it's 6 to 8 years of studies. In practice, that might vary a bit, but that's kind of like what we rely on and what we start building on when we start the studies here. We do have these kind of preparatory courses that help you reach the starting skill level. So if you know that your skill level is not as high as it needs to be, then we have some preparatory courses to help you get there. These preparatory or bridging courses, they kind of like repeat the essential things in a given language, and so that you have a solid foundation to build on in the professional language courses then. We have the courses available in English and Swedish, and again, the language of instruction is mostly Finnish, so hopefully you have some Finnish skills. And these can be included in the free choice studies, elective studies. So if you take any preparatory courses, then you also get the credits and they will help you graduate in time. The recommendation is to complete these courses half a year or a year before professional language courses. So let's say that your Swedish course, your professional Swedish course, takes place in the third year of your studies. Then it is not a good idea to take the preparatory course in the first year, because then you're just going to forget everything in the second year. So try to take it only a bit before the professional course. And at the bottom of the slide, there's a link that takes you to the list of preparatory courses in case you're interested in them. All right. Then a few words about credit transfer. So if you have already completed studies at the same level, which means that they are university studies or University of Applied Sciences studies, and if the learning outcomes are equivalent, means that it's roughly a similar course, and it's not older than 10 years, then you can apply for credit transfer. So, for example, if you've studied before at a University of Applied Sciences and you've studied a similar field and you've already taken a language course there, then you can just apply for credit transfer, and that's gonna take care of it, so you don't need to take the language course here. Then another case is that you have the skills, you have the competence acquired somehow, but you don't have any like official certificate, so it hasn't been a course. Instead, you might have been working abroad, maybe in your field, and you've just gotten the language skills through that experience. Then there's a system called Recognition and Validation of Prior Learning, so RVPL, and you can use that system to demonstrate that, hey, I have the competence, and if we see that that is the case, then you don't need to take the course either. But there's a but. So if your earlier language studies, so this is again about the studies that you might have taken before. So if you have studied in a different field, so for example, you're now studying nursing, and then before that you've been studying engineering. So okay, that's the same. It's the same language, but still the professional fields are very different. So also the professional language is different. So in that case, you will get a partial accreditation, which means that you can then demonstrate or first of all, you can then study independently the professional terminology, the professional language of your field, and then demonstrate that, hey, now I have studied this, now I can handle this. So you don't need to take the course, but you get a partial accreditation, and then you can just show the teacher that now I've learned the needed language independently. The important thing is that if you plan to apply for accreditation, do that before the beginning of the course, and talk about this to your own language teacher. There's a page in Pakki that will let you start the process. You will need to upload the certificates and relevant documents there. And then just a few words about these two different types of credit transfer for formal learning. First of all, there's substitution, which is something that I told you about already, that okay, you've studied a similar course before, so that will be substituted, that will substitute your current course. And then there's inclusion, so you've completed something elsewhere and you just add that to your studies. And usually these are free choice studies, because if you've studied something else that is not included in your study plan here, then there's really no other place to put that but free choice studies, because you can't just take any courses and just add them to your degree. So then a few words about this RVPL, recognition and validation of prior learning. So let's say that you worked abroad in your field and you've received experience in your professional language through that experience, and you would now like to apply for accreditation. So then you will need to demonstrate somehow that, okay, I already know this stuff. And it might be demonstrated through a portfolio, for example, learning diary, project work, expert lecture, exam, and so on. It depends on what you agree with the teacher. And again, if you plan on doing this, then do this before the beginning of the course using the accreditation page in Pakki, and talk about this with your language teacher beforehand. And you can find more information about this in the student's guide, and the link is below here. And then a couple of words about exemption. So if you have never studied Swedish, or if you have a confirmed diagnosis of severe dyslexia, then you can apply for exemption from Swedish, which means that you don't have to study it at all. And if you are exempted, then you have to choose some other language or relevant course instead of Swedish. More information about this can be found again in the student's guide. A link is there at the bottom of the slide. And again, you should talk about this to your own language teacher, and then the application will actually be directed to the responsible language teacher of your field. And if you need special support, if you have any need for support, then if you have diagnosis, if you have different documents that you've received from let's say medical professionals, always give them to your language teacher at the beginning of the course. These kind of documents can never be circulated from one teacher to another, so you will need to provide every teacher with these documents separately, because otherwise we don't know if you have any need for support, and we can't take that into account if we don't know that, of course. And if you have this kind of need, then always contact both your own language teacher and also the responsible language teacher of your field of study. And we also have two language teachers here at TAMK called Sari Hanska and Ella Hakala, and they organize these diagnostic tests for dyslexia, but only for Finnish-speaking students. So if your native language is not Finnish, then you have to find some other way to get to the tests if you suspect that you might have a dyslexia, for example. But if you are a Finnish native speaker, then you can also contact them and just ask if you can come and take the test. And again, more information available in the student's guide, as you can see there. All right, so that was it. A lot of stuff, and there's a lot more that I didn't mention, but hopefully you'll remember something. And if you don't worry, because you can always ask, you can always find more information, uh, at least in two different sources too. First of them is the Languages and Communication blog. You'll have the link there. So all the topical information, different news items, we will post them there. And then there's also the student's guide, which kind of like has all the essential stuff about studying languages and communication here. There's a page dedicated to languages there. So worth visiting and reading again and again. Every night, uh, if you can't fall asleep, then you can go there and have a good night's story. Um, then we have, or you can see some contact details here on this slide. So we picked teachers from every field of study so that you can first contact them if you have something on your heart, on your mind, and then they can just forward your question to the right teacher. Of course, we do have a lot more teachers in every field, but these are just uh, some teachers that you can contact. Okay, thank you for listening. Hope I didn't bore you to death. And once again, congratulations on your study place, and remember to have fun as well. Thank you.